Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Movie Studio. Today, I'm here to talk about Cobra Kai Season 6, Episode 5, The Best of the Best. And this is the final episode of Part 1. So, this was like a pretty big deal, knowing that this is going to be the last thing we're going to see until November. It's crazy. The show doesn't return until November 15th. So, do I think this was like a good enough episode to leave things off on and a good cliffhanger? I think so. Um, I do have some questions regarding the cliffhanger and you know, the time passed and what exactly led to this happening, but it was a good cliffhanger for the sake of things, and I would say this was definitely the best episode of part one. And if you've watched this, I've had some mixed feelings with part one overall. I just feel like a lot of filler, and especially last episode was a very mixed bag to me. But this episode definitely felt like a return to Cobra Kai in the best way possible. We, besides the Johnny and Daniel arguing, which I'll get into, but we had so many good scenes at the dojo, so many good training moments. Everything with Tory was great. Miguel dealing with his Stanford being deferred, Robbie dealing with always coming in second. Like, I think there was just great character moments for every single character throughout this episode, so I'm excited to get into it. So let's just start off with it picks up with the doctor telling Tori that she's lowering her mom's prescriptions and that she's getting better. Now, obviously, this is a setup for what happens later on, but then she runs into Kreese in the parking garage, and this was very interesting. I wondered if we would see Kreese back in the valley, and he does come back. I don't, I'm not really going to get into the logistics because I think it's so stupid that he's even back there and that he didn't get caught. Um, but it is a good setup because it does set up Tori to think that she doesn't belong at Miyagi-Do, and he gets into her head just like him and Kreese and Silver. That's what they do. They get inside people's heads, they manipulate them, and this is the perfect example of that. So, this causes Tori to kind of go on this downward spiral, but at first she doesn't let it get to her. She says like, "I'm done with you," like, crawl back under your rock. I'm not your champion. So, and I was proud of Tori in that moment for standing up to Kreese. And then, she goes back, and her and Robbie have this great moment where they say, "Let's try our best to get on that podium together, and let's do this for ourselves." And, I really like Robbie and Tori together. I always have. Ever since they first interacted back in season 3, I've been rooting for them. So it was kind of disappointing to see how things went with them in this episode. But that specific moment where they just said, like, "you and me on that podium together" was such a great little moment there between them. And then later on, Tori arrives home, and her mom has died on the floor, and this sends her just into an angry streak. She's like to the doctor, "You told me she was getting better," and and then she just lashes out and says, "There's no one you can call," and then she heads back home. Robbie's trying to call her, but she's not taking his calls. And then there's this really nice moment where she has a flashback to when she was a child and with her and her mom, and I really like that. The overall message behind it. Tori is making a drawing of mermaid princesses or whatever, and there's a prince there that's like fighting for them, but the mom says, "How about they learn to fight for themselves?" So, and it's a great message overall. And then we find out that the mom was getting abused, I guess, either by the dad or just by like someone else in her life. And she says, "Life's dealt us a bad hand." And then she says, "You're a really special girl, and I love you so much." And that goes to show you that at one point, her and her mom had a great relationship, and we don't know exactly when this illness started. But seeing Tori in a totally different stage and just a cute little girl compared to what we know now is just crazy, the difference. Um, but it was still a really nice moment, and yeah, I like the overall message behind it, and handing her the purple cap by saying this is like a magic jewel that will protect you, and yeah, for this type of show that I wouldn't expect something like this, but I think it overall worked really well. Um, So yeah, I really liked that flashback scene. I thought that was really good, and I think Peyton List did such a great job in this episode. Like in and maybe earlier on in the show, her acting didn't like stand out to me, but especially in these most recent seasons, she does a great job. In this episode, she was definitely the highlight to me, and I think they've given Tori such good writing for her character all throughout this. Ever since season 4, I think they've written her more up. They've taken her so many different levels and given her so many different layers. And this episode was, I think, the peak of that to me. So, of course, her mom dying sends her into this angry streak, and that leads to the fights later that I'll talk about. But before we get into that, let's talk about so Miguel gets deferred from Stanford, and this kind of sends him into thinking that if he it, can get the team captain spot, that means that he could Stanford could like I guess like not like him more, but like Stanford could consider him more if he gets that big team captain spot and could win the whole Saikai Taikai. So that's kind of where he's going, but he has to fight Robbie first for team captain, and that's a big barrier in his way because Robbie is a threat. Um, but Robbie is trying his hardest. He wants to win this. He tells Tory earlier on, like, win, winning the All Valley, even if it was rigged, it's still better than coming in second place. And that's his storyline throughout all of this. He has always come in second to Miguel or Hawk or anyone. Johnny, um, Sam, like Tory really is the only one he hasn't come second to. So I really like that moment where Robbie's training outside the apartment and like he has all these flashes and he keeps saying second place, second place. That was really good because one issue I've had with the writing with Robbie is that we never really get to see what's going on inside his head. Um, Season 4, I think, did a better job with it when he was in Cobra Kai and made us understand him more with the whole Kenny plotline. But ever since he left Cobra Kai, that kind of disappeared, and he kind of went back into just being Johnny's son and Miguel's friend, and Tori's boyfriend. Like this episode in particular really brought that back and actually made us care about him and made us want him to win this match because we have him getting upset with Miguel because Miguel thinks that he deserves to win this more than Robbie. And Miguel wasn't really saying that, but Robbie took it that way. And I think just the pressure from this upcoming match is really weighing on both of them. I'm not going to say who was in the right or in the wrong there, but it does lead to the big matches that I'm going to talk about in a second. So the other plot line through all of this is the Johnny and Daniel arguing, and let me tell you, this is so exhausting. I'm tired of it. I think everyone is tired of it. Like it's just we just don't need it anymore. So my hope is that they can resolve things in part 2, or they don't, and Johnny goes and takes back Cobra Kai or something in the future. I don't know. I was really looking forward to just them being co-senseis throughout all of this, but no, they had to go back down the direction of them rivaling again. It was just so stupid to me. Because yeah, throughout all of this, we have um, Johnny training the kids with more aggressive techniques, and Daniel's not happy with it, so he schedules a test drive behind Johnny's back. Um, so he can train Miguel and Sam, and then he trains them. Johnny comes to the woods. He's upset. They have a little bit of a fight because Johnny dragged the test drive person out into the woods. Sorry. And then Johnny wants to start his own dealership. Um, and then Amanda tells him, like, you need to grow up, and then tells him about what was inside the Miyagi box. And later on, Daniel says that opening the box has caused him to be off balance. Which I guess makes sense. There's all these unknowns about Mr. Miyagi inside that box, and Mr. Miyagi was so important to Daniel that having this unknown would really weigh on him. So I think that makes total sense. Um, and then Johnny and Daniel make up like right before the matches. So I think I kind of cover everything going up into the matches. So let's just go ahead and dive right into the matches. So Johnny and Daniel, they make up, and then we have Miguel and Robbie fight, and I think I liked really both of the fights, but the Miguel and Robbie one in particular was really good because the actor who plays Robbie did some great like moves that were clearly from him. Some great like gymnastics type moves. Um, and I was really rooting for Robbie to win this because again, he's always come in second place. Why not give him the win for once? And they did give him the win, and I was surprised. I'm like, I clearly thought Miguel was going to be the captain because he's like the main team, but no, they actually gave Robbie a chance. So overall, I definitely preferred that decision more because it does give Robbie finally something at last to be first in. So I'm happy of the writers for giving him that. And Miguel, I don't know. We'll see in the future parts, what will he decide to do. I mean, he definitely was not in the right headspace during that fight. He was fighting for his future. Robbie was fighting just to win. I think they were totally fighting for different reasons, and not saying one was right and one was wrong. I think they're both to be up for thinking about. But yeah, it's going to be interesting in the future to see where things go. I don't think they're going to be rivals again. I mean, maybe there'll be some tension during the tournament, but um, they made it clear no hard feelings at the end of that fight. So yeah. So the next fight is Sam and Tory, and you can just tell right away that Tory is off. Um, she's much more angry than usual, and everyone can notice it. Robbie, Daniel, Amanda, even Sam, she's fighting. Sam can notice something is wrong. Um, and then halfway through or so, Amanda gets a phone call from the medical center, and it's pretty much she finds out Tori's mom has died. Why they waited so long to tell her, I don't know. That was kind of odd to me. Um, and then let me see. Tory is pretty much about to like really hurt Sam when Daniel steps in, stops the fight. Tory says, "None of you understand. I have to fight right now because you're always going to choose Sam over me." And then she says, "This fight is over. I'm done after all of it." And of course, once again, Peyton List did a great job acting throughout all of this. I'm super impressed by her acting. Um, it was definitely heartbreaking to see all the way through. Johnny thinks that she should fight. Daniel says she's grieving. This leads into their fight in the Miyagi-Do room. Um, you know, Daniel says we shouldn't teach these kids to fight with anger. It's not the Miyagi-Do way. Johnny's like, I'm sick of hearing that name. Mr. Miyagi was a liar and a thief. Daniel then punches him in the face, and I think that was honestly pretty fair. That was not that was a pretty shitty thing for Johnny to say. Knowing how Daniel feels about Mr. Miyagi, that was not the right thing to say. Um, Now, whether Tori should have fought or not, I really don't have an opinion about. Probably not, personally. I don't think it was okay. I think she could have hurt Sam. I agree with Daniel with that one. That in that specific moment, it was not the right decision. Now, to each their own. Maybe there are cases where that would be good, but um, they pretty much say we're not going to be like after the tournament we're done. Again, it's very frustrating. We already got this season 4, them splitting up. Why are we doing it again? It's just repetitive at this point. So then they appoint Robbie and Sam as team captains, and Sam, it didn't really feel fair that she got it because Tori could have won, but whatever. And then Daniel discovers maybe Mr. Miyagi fought in the Saikai Taikai. I assume we'll learn more about that in part 2. Um, then we cut right away to Barcelona, which was interesting. Everyone's there. We have the 6 of them plus Johnny and Daniel, and then Cobra Kai comes in, and Tory is with them, and that's the cliffhanger. So the only issue I kind of have with this, I mean, I think it makes sense why she joined, but the only main issue, I'm like, so did Robbie or anyone like go to talk to her and like see how she was doing, or was she totally alone through all of this, and then she turned to Crease? I don't know. I would hope people reached out to her. I mean, her and Robbie are literally dating. So I don't know. That needs to be addressed in part 2, I think. But I think it was a great ending for part 1. I'm looking forward to part 2. Again, November 15th. I think a bit too long of a wait for part 2, in my opinion, but whatever. I don't think it's the end of the world by any means. So yeah, comment down below. What did you think of episode 5? What did you think of part 1? Are you excited for part 2? definitely, I think this was the most Cobra Kai episode so far of this season. So really impressed by all of that. So thanks everyone for listening, and I'll see you soon. Bye everyone.